Good evening, everyone.
Recording in progress.
Yeah.
Just remind me
recording is in progress.
Just remind me to stop it when I'm supposed to stop it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees for November 22nd, 2021. We'll start our agenda by rising and pledging allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to do something a little unusual tonight. Well, first of all, agenda review, we got anything to change or? No? Okay. That being said, we are going to change from our normal agenda. We're going to have an executive session briefly to discuss personnel, and I think we'll leave and we'll be right back. And after we get back, I think you'll understand why we're doing it this way, but it'll be real brief. So, the first order of business, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
So moved. And second.
Moved and seconded to go into executive session to discuss personnel. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposition, the motion's carried.
I would make the motion that we come out of executive session.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to come out of the executive
Recording
session.
in progress.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposition, we're back out of executive session. And we have made a decision tonight. We're going to announce and introduce our new police chief. And I'd like to have a motion to the effect. Adam?
I make the motion that we appoint Matt Sullivan as our new police chief.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to appoint Matt Sullivan as our new police chief for Swanton Village. No more discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay. We have hired a new police chief and we'd like to have Reg introduce him.
Yeah, so if I could introduce Matt Sullivan, be our new police chief, officially effective January 3rd. So congratulations, Matt. I don't know if anybody has any questions they want to ask Matt. Matt, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Well, I started my career, some would say I went backwards. I started as an attorney. I'm a licensed attorney in Connecticut. I practiced law for a few years in Connecticut. Attended Quinnipiac Law School down there. I did a general civil practice, and I was not enthused with the practice of law. I had always been interested in law enforcement. I met my wife in law school, and I had been coming to Vermont for many years. Since I was a little kid, and we came up here, and I applied to Burlington Police Department, was hired there, and here I am 22 years later after serving the Burlington Police Department for 22 years. So that's a very brief history of me, but I am open to any questions, and I look forward to working with the Swanton community.
Any questions at all? The officer, I mean, probably not everybody knows all of you guys, but just go right down through, and just introduce yourself, right down through the line.
I'm Officer I've been here since March of 2020.
Officer Don Gilbert, I've been the admin officer here since 2010.
Corporal Don Garnier, I've been employed here since 2014 part-time, 2017 full-time. I'm also a K9 unit.
Sergeant Chad Parra, I've been here since December 2010.
Thank you, guys. Any questions at all? Is there anybody on? I don't see anybody popping up. Okay. No? Okay. No other questions? Questions at all?
Okay, I'd just like to say, welcome to our organization, Matt, and thank all of our men for doing a great job for our community. And all the people out there, if you have any questions, make sure you call either the PD or the Swanton Village office, and we'll try to answer your questions the best we can. So, but again, congratulations, Matt. Welcome to the group. So,
Thanks very much.
okay.
That was painless.
Reg, when does
Sorry.
he officially start?
Officially January 3rd.
Yeah.
Joey retires the 2nd, and so Matt may come in a little early to pick up some stuff, but officially.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
Cool.
Okay.
5-6 weeks.
That was painless.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, well, going back on our regular agenda, item number 5 on our agenda this evening is public comment. Glad to have some public tonight, so
Yeah, we got
Ed?
some guys.
you can go first.
Greetings from your wonderful planning commission. As we are approaching a busy year, but we just thought we'd share with you where we're at and ask you to start thinking of some things too that you think that we might need to change. It's been 8 years now since the last revision of the plan, and you people probably have some ideas, things that need to change. Your constituents probably have some ideas of things that need to change. And maybe you know some of your constituents who would like to get in on the game for a few months. This week or so, for a few months, it'll take time. One of the things that we've talked about, and I'd hope that we would know today if we could at least sit with St. Albans and 5 towns here in Franklin County. They've come up with I think it was a wonderful plan. In the words of Greta Brunswick, loosening zoning codes could be one way to spur more development. Adding zoning flexibility and streamlining the development review process would lower market barriers for new builds. I think it's time we give some thought to that. That we can do things a little bit faster, do things a little bit easier, and maybe we can bring some growth about. One of the other things that we want to study, give a good look to, is our Southern Growth Project out there near St. Albans. That's been 15 years it's been there now. We have 1 deli and 1 car paint shop. How come there's no other interest in it? It's a nice spot, near the city, near the interstate and all. Maybe this is something that would help us with that we could have some flexibility. But that's one of the other things that we do intend to look at. Some of the other items that have been thrown around the table, yet not all set in concrete. Senior housing. Is there some spot where we should look at that and say this would be a great spot for senior housing? There's a need for it, no doubt about that. 4th Street. With that parcel of land over there. Would that be a good spot for a senior center? It's not a big spot. It looks big when you first drive into that property. But remember, all that land that you're looking at, a lot of it is the backyard of other houses around it. And maybe if there was some way to put some stakes out at the corners, when you look at it, you'd have an idea as to how small it really is, about 2 acres, I guess, at the most. Something could be done there. Our central business district. Historic, but is it passé now? What do we got to do down there? Maybe housing. Maybe there's some older houses that are going out. Maybe there's a spot for some, to help the needy. Some housing that would be able to help those people. We don't know. One of the other two things I've just written a couple of notes of this afternoon is a review of our forms. We got into that last week because a question was asked about somebody's permit, and well, I guess these forms have been around for close to 50 years now and nobody's really reviewed them. So maybe we need to look at that. And we're gonna need some help. We can't do all of these things. And I'm sure there are other areas that people would like to see a change on. One that bothers me a lot is, I'll be honest with, is the garbage that we're seeing around the village. You have a house on 2nd Street, their garbage can is right out by the sidewalk, basically on the sidewalk, for all the neighbors to get up in the morning and look out and see that. And for the dogs and cats to dump it over every so often. We have one on our street. Somebody wants to get rid of some old clothes and stuff. And I think he does a business of emptying houses. But then he brings it back. There's a pile of clothes out there on that sidewalk. It's been there for about 2 weeks now. Every cat in the neighborhood or in half of Swanton has urinated in that pile of clothes in the past couple of weeks. Plus dogs. I mean, is that what we really want to show? I think we need to look into junk cars. There's 2 of them down here on 1st Street. They've been behind the side of a house for 10 years. Nobody knows who owns them. The landlord doesn't want to pay to take them away, so they continue to sit there. We've got to come up with a way to address this. And junk. 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, whatever it was, we thought we had a way to resolve this issue of junk that the neighbors complain about. Okay, we gave everybody 100 square feet, 10 by 10 in your backyard with a fence around it. You can store all the junk that you want as long as we don't see it over the top of the fence. I don't know of any permits that have come in to put up a fence in the backyard for junk. I only know of one that did clean up their neighborhood because the house sold. But we forget, as in education, we always learn it took a community to raise children, educate children. The community is important to all of us as landowners. We might look at it and say that's theirs until you go to sell your house. And the neighbors come around and they look and see that. Or new possible people who might purchase come around and see that. Are they going to want to live with that? I don't know. I know from our own experience of trying to sell a house 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was the neighborhood that killed it because of those things that we see out there. And I think we need to look into these old permits that are out there. I always remember Bob Manning when there was a case out at the base of Woods Hill years ago. The guy started off with just a retirement job. He was going to straighten frames of cars in accidents. That was all. Next thing you know, the paint gun came out. Next thing you know, the signs went up on the side of the garage for tire sales. That's not what the permit did. Finally, he moved out and the whole thing was solved and the signs came down and the whole thing. But he left. I wonder how many permits were issued 20 years ago. Somebody moved out with a conditional permit. And that permit is still in force. I wonder if we have conditional permits, when that business finishes, boom, you go back and get it if you wanna do it. But anyway, those are things that we've gotta do. So there's a whole lot of stuff that we've got to do. We need people, we need ideas. You people all get telephone calls from people complaining about something. How about jotting some of them down, letting us know? Some of them might end up on the bottom of the pile because there's only so much time and only so many people to do something. But give some thought to what's going on. And if you know somebody who you think would be good at this, 2 months, 3 months, give us the name. We'll see if we can rope them in for a while or something. Thank you.
Ed, is this, this is in conjunction with the regional, the Northwest Regional Planning Commission?
Yes.
They're re-upping?
Every 8 years, well, it used to be 5 years. Now it's up to 8 years. We review the packet.
This is the municipal plan,
Municipal plan, if you want to call it that.
the town
I'm
plan.
reading you right, you're trying to get more of the meat of the community into this rather than just legal jargon that some of it's going.
I'm sorry.
You're trying to get, the planning commission is trying to get it more personalized to the community rather
Well,
than just.
that's one way of looking at it, yes. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't even know what the town plan is, don't even know what zoning is. It's amazing. So,
Make note of that.
yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Joel?
I've got a few quick comments if I could. First of all, I'm here on behalf of the Swanton Enhancement Project. We're trying to attend more meetings, get a little more involved with the people who make it happen in Swanton. So I'm the rep from Swanton Enhancement tonight. 4 major committees: the beautification, which, you know, does the gardens and the plants on the bridge, that sort of thing. Community and economic development, communications, and healthy communities. So those are areas that we're looking at and trying to improve in Swanton. And if you folks have ideas or anything that, you know, we could be looking at, we'd certainly appreciate it. There is an interest of the SEP to be involved in the discussion, hopefully between the town and village regarding the ARPA funds. That's a town and village decision, but there is some interest to be at the table when that happens. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I think it's already been mentioned before. So that's it regarding Swanton Enhancement Project. Real quick on Veterans Memorial Park, because you folks so graciously donated some money toward the sign. The sign is up, was put up on the 10th of November. As I probably mentioned when we were looking for those funds and permission to put the sign up, would like to be doing some plantings and would be working with SEP and the Beautification Committee to put some flowers, something in the park to make it look that much better. The other thing I haven't done yet, and I really want to get some light on the back side of the large monument where the names of the fallen are from the major battles. So be coming before you again later when we figure out what we might want to do to try to light that. I think it's pretty important that we get some lights on that at night. Heard the word 4th Street mentioned. There is a committee looking at that and reporting back to the town regarding the 4th Street property. That's town property where the garage was. Everybody knows that. The committee is going to be meeting at the first town meeting in December. One of the things we're looking at to do, proposing to do, was a community recreation center on that property. We're also looking at the actual rec department land in that area to put it. There's some discussion of what is the best location if we're ever to get funds to do that. So this committee has an obligation to report to the town by the end of December on the recommendations. And as part of that work that the committee's doing, the LVRT, Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, we are submitting a grant through the town to put a parking area right at the western terminus of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, right on Robin Hood. Basically where the railroad spur turns from Robin Hood from the southern side. It's almost a triangle. One side of it is curved, so I can't really call it a triangle, but that piece of land, we are actually developing a site plan right now. The deadline for this grant is the 29th of November. But if we get the money, we will clear some of the trees in there, and put in a parking area, a small pavilion, and probably a couple of portalettes, bike stand and a bike repair stand and a bike stand. And I think we got a real good chance. We had a letter of intent that was due in September that got approved, and we were asked to submit a formal grant application. So, a few things we've got going on.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And if I might stick my neck out, Joel, as far as getting together and discussing the funding that's gonna be available, we have met informally with the town, and we aren't gonna make any decision until we get SEP and the community involved. We're trying to get things together and try to figure out what we're gonna be able to use the funding for, and then we're gonna have a group public discussion on what suggestions are for allocating these funds and what we have planned and whether it's gonna be a good idea or not, so.
Excellent.
We aren't doing anything behind closed doors, we're just trying to get our, all ducks in a row, so to speak, and then we're gonna have a public meeting.
Excellent. My understanding is they're multi-year funds, so there's some time to try to figure this all out, because it's coming rapidly and a lot of red tape with it as well, so.
It's the biggest issue with us is the red tape to have to wander through. I mean, I think there's more questions than answers out there.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on some.
I heard there was something that the town was looking at and said, well, maybe we'll fund it up front and then go for the funds, and I'm thinking that's a great way to pay for it with your own money, because if it doesn't meet their requirement, feds will say no way. Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Public comment? Okay, if not, item number 6, approve and accept our minutes from Monday, November 8th, 2021 meeting. What's your pleasure?
I'll move we approve the minutes from Monday, November 8th as printed.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve and accept our Monday, November 8th minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Corrections? No? Okay, all those in favor of approving and accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposition. All, motion is carried. Item number 7, approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, November 18th, 2021. Thanks, Ed. What's your pleasure on the warrants?
I move that they be approved.
I would second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the village warrants through November 18th, 2021. Any discussion on the warrants?
I didn't.
You got that truck question?
Oh, yeah,
There
you're
was a
right.
question on trucking company?
Yep.
That's the new plow truck.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
just wanted
It
to
used to
know for
be
sure.
Clark's. got bought
Oh,
out.
that's why I didn't recognize it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Forgot about it.
Any other questions?
No,
All those in favor of the motion to approve and accept the village warrants signify by saying aye.
aye.
No opposition, all carried unanimously. Motion is approved. Item number 8, Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation and Northwest Regional Planning Commission discussion on regional priorities project.
Hello, Dan.
Welcome to
Mr.
Swanton,
Smith?
Tim.
You are Mr. Smith.
You too.
Thank you, lady.
Thank you.
Hey, Tim.
Draft list of Franklin County projects.
So, let me jump in.
Go ahead.
So SIDC gets funding from the state of Vermont in the amount of about $118,000. And to receive the $118,000, so there's 12 regional development corporations around the state. All of us get an equal amount of money, but we also have to meet some guidelines or reports, if you will, to maintain that agreement. And one of those things that we have to do is that, and this started last year, is that we need to go around the county and we need to aggregate a number of, well, we need to aggregate economic development projects throughout the county. And when we say an economic development project, it has to meet certain criteria regarding job creation. The project has to be deemed feasible in some form or fashion. And I'll look to Elizabeth's.
Well, job retention and creation are the two biggest ones. There has to be, it has to be something that is moving forward. It can't necessarily just be an idea, as great as it may be. But the job retention and creation is the biggest one.
And some available funding applied towards it. So when we were over at the select board last week, the suggestion of the Welcome Center was brought up because it's not on the list. But it's not on the list because it hasn't been deemed feasible. There's no funding applied to it. We are, just a quick update on that, we are waiting for a report coming from V-Trans relative to all of the rest areas and welcome centers around the state, of which we're going to look at the Highgate area as well. So that will give us a jump start in terms of that feasibility and the availability of moving that forward. But as we go around the county, we're going to aggregate all of the projects, and then FCIDC and regional planning will sit down, and based on the criteria, we will rank them and then submit the top 10 projects to the state of Vermont. The projects, that list goes to the state of Vermont because as they get grant dollars in from EDA, Northern Borders, ARPA, whatever the case might be, they'll know what the projects in each region are and which ones have the support so they'll be able to award dollars moving forward. The trick to this is that there's some good projects that would be focused maybe on housing that may not generate a whole lot of job creation, but keep in mind there's other avenues for those projects as well, whether it's CDBG or Housing Conservation Board. There's other funding available, but they will still be on the list. They may not show in the top 10, but they will be an opportunity to educate other agencies about what the projects are going on throughout the county. So what we've done, Elizabeth has drafted a short one-pager that will be sent out to, that has been sent out to all communities, and if there's something that can be that should be notified, that we should be notified about, then that form should be filled out and sent back to us. I think we have, you know, for the Swanton area, you'll see on the last page, downtown redevelopment, 4th Street property, which Joel already mentioned, and the Swanton Riviera Hotel. You know, the bridge would not probably fall into this because transportation, even though it could be direct to some job creation for the most part, it's mainly indirect jobs for the time that the bridge is being constructed. So we're here just to make you aware of it, make sure you're on top of it, and if you have some thoughts that we may not be aware of, let us know and we can move forward. We'll add it to the list and make sure that the parties at the state level are aware of it as well.
So these projects are all funds included, the ARPA and other funds?
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's not so much the funds, it's more about what's ready, what's in a ready state, shovel ready, if you will, to move forward. It doesn't have to be ARPA funds. You'll see the Highgate airports in here as well. So there's been some level of feasibility done on it and some research on funds. So
So I'm sorry, and this may answer your question, I don't know. So it's not gonna be arbitrary, it's not gonna be Tim, me, and some folks from regional planning sitting down and ranking them. There is a matrix, I tried to print it, but it's so small you can't really read it. So there's the scoring metrics that we have to use, that all the RDCs will be using for all of the projects. So that will be how the ranking is determined by that matrix. It's not us sitting down and going, oh, well, I like Swanton, so I'm going to pick a Swanton project. There is a form that you have to follow.
So scores will be tallied, and that will decide what the ranking is moving forward.
Which leads me into my question. So you eventually, you're gonna have a top 10.
Yes.
How possible is it that one or more communities get left out and one or more communities benefit more?
I would say it's very possible, because it's going to be done more on readily available fund. I mean, all that matrix will decide, and if a project in Enosburg or Fairfield doesn't move to that level, then they will be left out.
Right.
So
And the reason I say that is, I mean, I see St. Albans City, St. Albans Town having more shovel-ready products than, processes than other communities, and they're simply going to get left behind.
But I think you make
because of that one issue.
I don't know anything about St. Albans City, but but what I would say is you're exactly right, Adam, because those communities like Swanton Village, Swanton Town, St. Albans City, St. Albans Town, Georgia, the ones that have that administrative support are probably going to be moving much further up that being prepared list, if you will, than a Fairfield or Berkshire or Montgomery. Montgomery's trying to get their water and sewer, and they're depending on volunteers. So it's a flaw in the discussion for sure, because you're not getting, those smaller towns just don't have the resources to move these things forward.
Yeah, exactly, and that's,
Well, and I think, so we'll have kind of the internal list as well for everybody who's not on the top 10. We'll still have the major list. And I think that will give us an opportunity to advocate and work with communities who have a great project that they just don't have the capacity to do. We reached out to Enosburg, and they have a couple of projects that aren't on the list that we didn't know about. So if we can do the outreach and people let us know, communities let us know that there are projects, then that may put us in a better position to help them because they don't have the capacity.
Keep in mind, we were, Elizabeth and I had discussions with CDBG regarding another project, and we were asked to withdraw the application because it was not specific to housing. So a lot of these top 10 probably won't be focused specifically on housing. So even though they're on the list, that may help them move that project forward with CDBG, because it's their focus has been dictated by the governor is all housing. And these top 10s probably won't have enough housing to make the top 10 of the CDBG grant application. So it's not just, there are other opportunities for the money. It's not just ACCD, there's other opportunities.
okay, thank you.
Can transportation projects be included? Like our bridge?
It can be included. My guess is it won't rank high, but it will make that list, Eugene, so it doesn't hurt to be on the list by any means.
Keep the airport.
Yeah, I mean, the potential for the job creation
The
there.
potential for a job is, for the county.
They've done the planning study, they've got some money, they've done the bond vote. So all of that, that's a prime example of the ones that will be sort of readily available to move, and they'll be higher up on the list for sure.
And I do think it's fair to point out that the Highgate water and sewer is not just about the airport, it's about the potential for the adjoining development, which is why it may rank higher on the list because it's not purely transportation related to the airport. There is the possibility of that economic development and the jobs. Just so anybody going, well, what's the difference between the airport and the bridge? The difference is it's really not just the airport, it is the development next door.
And the neighborhood properties all the way up, as we've talked about, going up 78 as well.
This is probably the 50,000 foot level, but jobs seem to be the key here. If you had a company that wanted to locate in Vermont because of whatever, but Swanton's really cool. We got the interstate right here, we're right next to Canada, got an airport that they can bring things in and out with, that's expanding. With jobs and with companies moving here, then housing becomes even more critical. I mean, what gets me is Swanton's a bedroom town. People they live here, but they don't work here. And one of the greatest things that could help in our environment and help everything else is if people lived where they worked. So if we could bring, some 50 to 200 employee jobs to the area, housing would follow, I would think. And so it seems like the state always wants to bring jobs and they always want housing, but do something to get companies to want to come here. To me, I could be wrong too, but the atmosphere in this country right now with all of the problems getting your product to market, like overseas and unloading boats, why not make it here? And why not make it in Vermont?
Can I tell the 7-year story? So Frank Chaffee, who is the executive director of the Greater Burlington Industrial Development, about 7 years ago, predicted that there would be no more space for industrial, there would be no more industrial space. He tells the story better than I do, but I've heard it a few times. There would be no more space in Chittenden County in about 7 years. We're at 7 years, and there's no more space in Chittenden County.
Franklin's got open arms.
Well, and I'll let Tim take over from here, but we've gotten a number of, FCIDC's gotten a number of inquiries from Chittenden County looking for space.
So, Chris, right, I mean, it's a vicious circle, right? I mean,
Sure.
you get more jobs, you need the transportation, you need the housing, you need the childcare. I mean, there's more to, 50 years ago,
the jobs, the companies is the root of it. That gets the ball rolling. That gets everything else. Once the demand's there, it happens. You can't, it's this building and they will come stuff is for baseball fields. It's not for.
But we've done our panel discussions as part of our strategic plan. We've begun those and we've had 7 to date on a variety of different topics. And what we keep hearing is the need for employees, number one. The need for workforce training is another one. And then to follow that, it's probably housing and childcare. So everyone's screaming for employees. What some of the suggestions coming out of these panel discussions are is that we need to promote the area to attract more people into it. So that, because everyone's looking for help right now. But I agree with you, if you can, I've always been an advocate for, if you don't have to be on the interstate and go to IBM or go to Burton or wherever, and you can stay in your community, you're more likely you're gonna participate as a youth coach or a school board member or a select board member. You're gonna be more involved in your communities and all that. So we get it. We're going to be focused on a lot of those discussions as part of our strategic plan, which we hope to release in the spring. But you're exactly right. I mean, the jobs can solve a lot of issues, but will people move here if we don't have that infrastructure in place?
Why not?
Right?
So the WIB, that's the Workforce Investment Board. Yeah, I'm glad to see that on the list. I mean, to me, that's an important part of our growth here in Franklin County.
Once again, that's not it could create jobs indirectly, but it's not an initial job creator, so it's probably not gonna be ranked high. That's something that's on the list so that we can go to the Department of Labor when they have money and maybe we can fund that position like we did when Kathy Lavoie was in that position, and it did make a huge difference for us moving forward. So.
Jobs are very important, but also the quality of life is a bigger attractant. It's a new economy now. People are coming to look for places and they're coming with their own jobs. Internet, work for all these different type of internet companies. COVID has changed everything. It's changed the economy of Vermont. 2 years ago, we saw 4, 5, 6 houses for sale on every street. Everything is gone now. I've seen more requests, more inquiries in the last year and a half. People need houses now because they just want to move to Vermont. And they don't need a job at a company to do it. They just don't want to be in the city anymore. So Vermont being like the healthiest supposedly on COVID list, we got a lot of attention and a lot of praise for that. And we got a lot of real estate gobbled up really quick as a result of it. But people are looking for quality of life, not necessarily jobs. So the economy today in Vermont isn't necessarily just about corporations coming here. It's about what can you provide our families for quality of life? Do we want to be in this community? Rural, anything that had 10 acres went for top dollar. Twice or more what they were for sale like 2 years ago. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like this being in the housing industry. But the number one boom to this economy isn't necessarily jobs. It's the quality of life in Vermont and people coming here who have remote jobs that they can do at home. And they're looking for places for their families. So it's important to think about what we provide. I mean, St. Albans, you guys have got a lot going on. Activities, the pool, the ski lodge, the marina. People get on the internet, have been buying up homes, didn't even come to Vermont to look at the home, just bought that home off the internet. Got on a plane, moved their entire family from New York, California, you name it. So it's important to think about that. What are you offering? What can you community do or provide? Why would we want to move where you are or where we are? Veteran community is what we were always about. Swanton was always about a nice place to go live. We all traveled down the road to either Burlington, Chittenden County. I still do it for most of the time for my work. But now people are just looking for a cool place to live and looking for natural resources, quality of life, open spaces versus the crowded spaces where everybody got sick. It's a different day.
And I can't disagree with any of that. I would say there's two facets to it though.
Yeah.
You still have graduating classes, BFA 200, MVU 150. You still have half only going on to college, so half still live in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So you still need that job creation.
Sure.
They're not all going to work from home. So it's everything you said is totally true. What we find is when someone look to relocate a business here, it's not a corporate decision. It's a sole proprietor or a partnership who want to come for exactly what you said, quality of life.
Yeah.
A corporation's not going to make a decision to come to St. Albans, Vermont, or Swanton, or Vermont in general, because there's not enough incentives. There's not enough financial incentives for the most part.
Yep.
because they're making the decision based on the bottom line. It's going to be the attraction that we've seen over the years in Canada has been that individual who owns a facility in Canada wants to expand here, but they want the education, they want the quality of life, they want the recreation opportunities. So quality of life definitely plays into that. I mean, there's many housing, I mean, it all fits into economic development. It's not just one thing anymore. It's not just tax incentives. But I think it's a two-faceted approach. You do have people coming here. We all know the housing prices have gone skyrocketed. To your point, no one's even been to look at them. We've done it virtually. Paying 40, 50, 70,000 over asking price. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's going to be interesting what the new census is going to be like, how many people did migrate to Vermont over this last year. I don't think, do we have any of those numbers?
The 2020 ones came out probably premature to what those were, so it'll only be an estimate moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So the priority list that you were talking about, is there a time frame when that's going to come about?
When we have to have it, to the state by December 15th.
Yeah, mid-December, so.
Mid-December?
Yeah, the next week or so, we'll be sitting down to do the matrix work, and then it'll come out sometime in December.
And that's combined regional planning and county industrial development.
So we've collaborated on the process.
Yeah.
So if we have anything to add to the list, better get it out there.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a one-pager, the details that you have to, it's not, it'll take 5 minutes, right? If there's something out there that's.
If you want me to resend it, if you want me to send it to you, I can.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Anybody else have any more questions?
Any outlook as to what you're seeing for next year, positive, negative? Growth?
Well, with the border opening up, that should help some, at least the commercial businesses.
The next 5 years should be interesting with the A35 or I-35 coming down to the border. The growth at Highgate. To what Elizabeth alluded to, the lack of available industrial land in Chittenden County. But at the same time, if a lot of our larger producers can't fill jobs, we could see activity move someplace else.
That's a great concern to me. Because who's going to do the projects that we propose?
Right.
If you can't have the staff to take care of what we have now.
I used to see job fairs fairly often. Is that happening?
I see some of it. I've seen some.
Department of Labor is doing virtual job fairs. A lot of producers are doing their own job fairs, or a lot of companies are. The one we used to do at the Collins Pearly Complex, that went by the wayside with COVID. Whether that comes back. Over time, we've just seen the in-person approach to job hunting had declined significantly. A lot of it was online through, Indeed and those type of entities. So,
But I'm thinking like the high school kids that are not really sure what they want to do in life and what the opportunities are.
So
The
we've
people that know what they want are the ones that are using those online job services.
So we've had multiple discussions, we being FCIDC with DFA, and we're going to be transitioning that to the other schools as well. We're looking at a model and to see We'd like to get every high school in the county to have a career center, so they can have those discussions. They can bring people in to do presentations, interviews. They can do some shadowing, apprenticeships, that type of stuff. So we're trying to get to the point where all the high schools have some resemblance of a career center. Because I think I haven't spoken to anyone at MVU yet, but I know BFA has come to the conclusion that they have spent way too much time pushing kids into college and not helping those focus on careers that may not want to go to college.
We've been up to MVU a couple of times for their career days, just Mary Wood's class, talking about what we have available in our community, so.
I know years ago when I had my Boy Scout troop, I graduated, several Eagle Scouts. Only 2 of them stayed in Vermont. They're off making their fortunes all over the country. One's in Denali in Alaska, and a couple of them are in Florida. Got beer distributors, and a couple of them are engineers in Texas, doing municipal waterworks projects. It's wonderful, but I wish they could have stayed here and done the same thing.
Well, like David said, let's hope the ones that want to come here, that, like Chris says, have been gone with the virtual working. I know my son would love to come back to Vermont, and he's in a job where he can work virtually, and his wife can work virtually. They're looking for property in Vermont. And those kind of people would be good for the community, and let's hope, that and the development go hand in hand.
Well,
So,
a lot of these individuals are moving out of like New York to California at really high paying salaries. And they're coming to places like Vermont with those salaries intact. And so a lot of these corporations have realized how being centrally located during COVID hurt them in being spread out, especially, if they were able to just sit at a desk in an office building in a high rise all day long, do what they're doing, they could do this somewhere else. This wasn't great for real estate in New York, sure, but it was definitely great out here. But as far as the economy goes, I've seen some impressive, the prices of lumber, it doesn't even faze these people. I figured we were going to be starving to death when this thing hit, and the absolute opposite happened. Can't keep up with it. And we don't have enough people to fill that demand as far as like construction goes. It's kind of a boomy town, but people aren't still rolling in here yet, like Colorado and those type of places in Tennessee. But Vermont is definitely seeing a bit of surge because of the quality of life, and people are reevaluating what they want, and how they feel their families will be protected and safe. So that's a good thing, for sure. But they are definitely looking for what can the community offer if we move here. But they don't necessarily need the job. And that's a different day, or a different game, so to speak, as far as diversifying income into the community than what we were used to. Always had to have the large corporations, you had to have the fact that we just have to be a nice place to be. Yeah. People are going to come here with a job already. They don't need a job, they're just going to come here and be and spend money. That's the coolest economic rule game changer I've seen in a long time.
That's certainly a color, and it's peaceable. What would be so nice is to keep our local talent local, like I said with my scouts.
Yeah.
They all left because there wasn't anything here other than a nice place to live that kept them here. And if we could
Well, this next generation has reevaluated that. They are now looking for nice places to go live.
I'd just like to say too that, all the work that Elizabeth's done, not only as the economic coordinator here, but also the FCIDC, so appreciate the work, because there's no way in hell I'd be able to do all this stuff on top of what we have to do here, so keeping me straight too, I appreciate that. You know, you see a lot of things that are in here that we know you've touched on firsthand, so
Yeah,
appreciate the work that you do,
yeah, for sure.
and we're fortunate.
And hopefully, like you say, in the next 5 years, we're changing more for the positive.
Yeah.
Amen.
We're poised, I think. We've got a lot of right steps with everything that's going on. I think we keep pivoting on that fence, you know, and I think eventually we'll fall on the other side and things will start looking good.
Just gotta keep the frustration level down, waiting for everything to come through.
Yeah.
So,
And at this point in time, I think, in order to keep things running smoothly, to keep our infrastructure up to date is crucial. You can't do any of these other things without that.
okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Coming.
We'll be in touch. So, and Elizabeth's gonna send you some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send me the form.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Tim.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And you. Yeah, it is Thanksgiving week.
Okay, item number 9 on our agenda this evening, any other necessary business? Nothing necessary?
Just, on behalf of, yeah, on behalf of the trustees, we'd like to congratulate Brian Savage on his appointment as town administrator.
Right.
And hopefully we'll be working very well together very soon. So, not that we haven't, but, just,
And park looks nice.
the park looks nice, yes. We had a nice 18-foot Christmas tree all lit up.
Yeah.
Thank you to Swanton Tree Farm, Ernie LaRock, for helping us with the tree. Jeff Domi, Mark Rushell, and myself, we got it all up there and decorated. Swanton Village Electric brought in their boom truck Friday. Took us a good amount of time, but we got it done, and we appreciate the donation from Swanton Lumber for the stand, and Ace Hardware, Memorial Ace for the lights. So it's a real true community effort to get it done, but it looks awesome. I'm not making any promises on a tree next year, so. But the last meeting I just had a word for the day was ARC, Act of Random Kindness this time of year. Word for the day for me this week is compassion. Have a little compassion, show a little compassion to your fellow neighbor. That's all I got.
Christmas in the park?
Huh?
Christmas in the park?
Oh, Christmas in the Park is this Saturday, 2:30 to 5. I was all excited about the tree.
That's why I told you.
Yes. So yes, 2:30 to 5. All sorts of things going on with the chamber, and the reindeer are coming. And what else? The Swanton Library has something going. The Swanton Arts Council has something going.
Yeah, the arts.
So it's going to be a fun-filled day. It's Small Business Saturday, so please go out and support your local business. And
Yeah, the Arts Council craft show at the Methodist Church.
And the VFW.
Saturday, right?
Yep, and there's an art show at the library, something like that?
And the VFW.
Art sale?
And the VFW?
VFW?
Yeah.
a lot of stuff.
Lot happening this
A
weekend.
lot happening this Saturday.
So,
Come on down.
yeah.
The price is right.
Yeah.
We spent enough already.
Okay, anybody else have anything
I had
to
a
say?
question. The invoice for the water line in Fair Street, that was about what was expected. for cost, I mean,
For the river crossing, you mean, for Aldrich and Elliott, or?
no, the water line installation of this summer,
Oh, yes,
that the invoice is about right.
yes.
I looked at my notes, but I couldn't find anything, so I just wanted to be sure it was okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we don't need another, anybody else that have anything to say? We don't need another
No,
executive
I
session?
think the other thing, I mean, Matt, I was trying to get him to talk a little bit more about his personal, but he does spend a lot of time in youth hockey and winter activities for the kids. So he is very community minded and stuff, so he does a lot of that
And he doesn't live in Swanton, but he lives
in Bakersfield.
Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Good. New blood in the
So he's
village and the town.
Franklin County. Yeah, I mean, Brian, I mean, geez, we stretched fire hoses quite a bit over the years, so it's gonna be good working with him.
Okay.
Yes.
That being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to end this meeting, or adjourn this meeting of Swanton Village Board of Trustees for November 22nd, 2021. Thank you for coming this evening, and all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.